Hello and welcome to the Futro Hidden Movie Gems podcast. I'm your host, Ty Christensen. I'm joined by Jordan.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
And we're joined by a primitive screwhead, Cameron.
Give me some sugar, baby.
No, thank you. And we're joined by a guest, Chris Joint, everybody.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Welcome. We are discussing a very special movie near and dear to our hearts that's probably the quintessential movie that defines the Christensen household. We are discussing Army of Darkness, Sam Raimi's movie that came out back in 1992, starring our boy Bruce Campbell, Embeth Davidtz, Marcus Gilbert, Ian Abercrombie, and Richard Grove.
How did we used to pronounce his name, Ty? Did we say Campbell or something?
Bruce Campbell. Campbell Soup, but I always knew that, but I just assumed his name was Campbell because it's not. Is this spelled the same way as Campbell Soup? Probably is, but when you don't know any Campbells in your life, you're just going to mispronounce his name until someone tells you.
Phonetically.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like Cillian Murphy, Killian Murphy.
Man, actors have weird names. We're going to go around and say what was it like watching this movie the first time and what was it like rewatching it for this podcast. I saw this movie many moons ago. Jordan, I think you introduced me to it, right?
Probably.
You'd watched all the Evil Dead movies and you're like, oh, this is tame enough for Ty to watch. And I loved this movie when I first saw it. And it just became the movie that I quoted. And I will quote it to people whether they've seen it or not or even know what I'm quoting. This movie became part of my obsession about movies. It was the most quotable, an actor that may be flawed, but I wanted to be just like him so badly. I wanted to be a chainsaw-wielding, double-barrel shotgun bad A. I just wanted to be that guy. So this was like the first role model I ever had in a movie, which is not saying much because I don't aspire to a lot of the things that he does. But that being the caveat, this movie is really special. Rewatching it for the pod, I found myself laughing even more this time because I'm catching more and more things as I see it. And as my life changes, there are even more laughable things. And I think that this is probably one of the greatest comedy horror films of all time, if I do say so boldly.
Definitely bold.
And there's a few good ones out there, and we can discuss those later. An excellent rewatch, very rewatchable.
Completely.
Honestly, I cannot remember the first time I saw this. YouTube used to get away with a lot more showing almost full-length films in parts. So that's how I used to watch movies, is just part one of Army of Darkness part two, and sometimes they'd be mixed up or they'd flip it so the copyright wouldn't come through. I just saw lots of parts of it and just remembering this is the most interesting, crazy film I've ever seen. And I didn't actually know it was the third film in the series, so I hadn't seen the first two actually right away. It wasn't until later that I was like, oh my gosh, this is a trilogy. And it's just because it doesn't say Evil Dead 3, it says Army of Darkness. So you wouldn't...
This is a trilogy, what in the name?
See, Cameron's mind just blown.
Oh, fudge.
You had 3 different studios that owned the rights to the different movies. So you keep having to change hands, so that was part of the issue.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Which is why the new TV show that came out, The Evil Dead, which is so wonderful.
Oh, fantastic.
It also, they couldn't reference any of Army of Darkness material. Is it quintessential to the whole overarching theme? Not really.
I would actually say it's even to its benefit because each film, it almost rewrites how it plays out. The ending of the first one actually starts differently in the second film, and then the third film, it's a bit different than the second. And I just love that.
The multiverse.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Bruce Campbell, Evil Dead multiverse.
Rewatching it for this podcast, most amazing film ever.
I love what you mentioned about watching this on YouTube because I think there's definitely movies in my mind. The first time I ever saw one of the zombie movies, Night of the Living Dead, or maybe even 28 Days Later, I remember watching the whole movie inverted because of copyrights. To the very end, there was a text on something and I couldn't read what it was because it was backwards. I'm like, wait, what did he write? What was that coded message? And it was well, it's actually very obvious. It's just one word, but you couldn't read it because the YouTube video was flipped. It was the mirror image of it.
Well, watching it for the pod was my first time, and I apologize in advance because I lost my voice, but...
Cameron just aged 70 years.
I know.
No, you slept too long. Oh.
Watching it for the first time, there was many a times I caught myself saying, what the fudge am I watching? My eyes were bleeding, and I was like, what on earth is this? I had so many questions, so many things of what is happening. I don't know. I guess overall it's a pretty good, I'd say a positive viewing experience.
You needed to watch it with us, dude. It's amazing. Oh,
Oh yeah,
Oh, this movie benefits from an audience viewing.
yes.
completely.
Did you watch it alone, Cameron? Did you watch it with roommates?
I watched it alone.
Oh, Cameron, your first mistake. You got like so many roommates that would be like down. I watched Venom with Grant and I thought it was the greatest comedy of last year in 2019. You need to watch it with people, man. And Chris.
I saw it really young. I saw it when it was in theaters back in the day.
Oh my gosh.
Jealous.
No, he's just old, Jordan.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just old. We used to go to like cabins and stuff as a kid, and my older brother used to terrorize me about like the Evil Dead. Like, ooh, this is like the Evil Dead cabin.
No.
Cruel.
And I was like, ooh, what's he talking about? Because I had never seen Evil Dead, so I'd always like act kind of scared, like, ooh, this is like an Evil Dead cabin. And then finally, like, when I got to see Army of Darkness, because he was like hyping it up for so long, you know, Army of Darkness is definitely more that family-friendly style almost compared to like Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. And so I was actually like pleasantly surprised with the kind of funny quirkiness of Army of Darkness. That was kind of like my first experience watching it, rewatching it for the podcast here. It was really fun because every time I watch it, I noticed something different. And the main thing that I noticed about this watch around was that everything that happens in this movie happens directly after Evil Dead 2. He just had one crazy night. And then he goes into the past with King Arthur and all these people, and I never thought about it picking up like directly after Evil Dead 2.
24 hours after sawing off his own hand.
Yeah.
Like, it is not a moment to breathe in between the
Not
films,
at
that's
all.
for sure.
He becomes a slave and boom.
Yeah, we're going to get right into it. We're going to go around and say two of our favorite things from this film.
Should we start with the guest? Because I feel like we always steal the guest's favorite things.
First off, special effects. I think they truly did an amazing job at the special effects. Calling back to like Harryhausen like style of like skeletons from Jason and the Argonauts and all that. Even to like the facial prosthetics into the graveyard. I thought that the special effects did a really well job with the practical. The second would be the overall director's approach. You know, Sam Raimi really knows how to put his own kind of voice into every shot, and it trickles through kind of every single movie that he's done, to Spider-Man, to like hopefully soon you will get to experience in like a Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which will be interesting.
Ooh.
You know, the way he uses the camera as evil to move through the forest. He really has a style about him, and so those are the two things that really kind of I love about this film.
Definitely number one is the dialogue. Some of the freaking things they say, I'm like, what the freak? It's like the cheesiest quotes I've ever heard, ever. I think the second thing that I think is hilarious is how unfazed everyone is the fact that he's from the future. Everyone took that like a champ. He's like, I'm from the future, and everyone's just like, okay, he's from the future. He's the chosen one. As long as it's part of the prophecy, it's no big deal. And he's from the future wielding a freaking chainsaw and a 12-gauge shotgun. Everyone's just unfazed at this fact. I was just like, what am I watching? But it was, yeah, both of those made it hilarious.
Well, I think because they're all afraid because he was the only person to kill a Deadite. So they're like, oh my gosh.
Just owned him with some technology they hadn't seen before. Double barrel Remington.
I love when the guys are like stabbing the car and
It's like jabbing.
What kind of armor is this?
that's right. Yeah, I just kind of want to piggyback too off of the comments of both Chris and Cameron.
Good piggyback.
Well, the correlation between Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell literally is the perfect dynamic duo. Hearing their relationship totally reminds me of me and Ty. So when Ty was saying like he wanted to be Bruce Campbell, well, I wanted to be Sam Raimi, and I just put Ty through a heck and back again, just, you know, torture him in every one of the films. Because you can tell throughout the films, I think it was in high school, Bruce Campbell said Sam Raimi used to sit behind him and poke him in the back of the neck with a pencil, and he would just keep doing that, and then he would see how hard he could push it into his neck before he would turn around and be like, stop that. In all his films, you notice that, like in Evil Dead, when they're pouring just gallons and gallons of water on him, or fake blood, you're seeing how far he can push Bruce, because you see that throughout the film, just like how much blood can he shoot in his face? How much heck can he put this man through?
Pours down boiling water down his throat. What the freak?
How about some nice hot chocolate, huh? I love that stuff because I torture most of the people I put through in my films.
To get the best out.
I know, right? Thank you, Chris. See, Chris understands.
It's because Chris hasn't been in enough films with you. You scare him away farting.
That's right. He's like, we do pure method acting here. We actually torture our actors. Throw away any legal documentation. Forget about it. Method act the crap out of you.
Chris mentioned by this one, it's more family friendly. The very first one started out horror and it has a little bit of the jokes here and there. But by the second one, it was like almost half comedy, half horror. And then by this one, it went almost all out comedy. It's interesting how they just essentially amplified all the silly jokes. They really hit hard on the humor. And it's a lot like a Three Stooges TV show. He's even mentioned that, how he just loves the Three Stooges. And you can totally see that in this movie. It's just all the slapstick, really goofy, over the top humor. People getting hit in the face and, like Cameron said, drinking hot boiling water.
And being totally unaffected. What the fudge?
Completely unaffected.
It seems to burn him.
Hey, he screamed a little bit. There's lots of screaming in this movie, too. I love it.
I say my two favorite things, Jordan, I love what you mentioned about the Three Stooges, because yes, growing up watching the Three Stooges, like, I love this dumb slapstick humor, where you have a character that ends up falling face first onto a grill and can't get his face off of it, so he ends up reaching in for, like, a spatula and shows the camera what he's doing, and then proceeds to, like, scrape off his face from the grill. The slapstick humor holds up for me. This movie isn't for everyone, but I think this is so funny. For me, the best thing is about the humor. This movie is so much funnier every time I watch it. The jokes don't get old because not only is it the dialogue, but it's the wacky things you're seeing. Like, to me, this is the biggest WTF movie I've seen in a long time.
Amen.
And it might be topped by Big Trouble in Little China. The humor, it lands for me. Cameron mentioned that quotable lines. This is one of the more quotable movies. I think this movie is ahead of its time. That's the second thing I love about this film is, even though it has like these weird things that I don't think you would ever find in movies these days, that being said, one of my favorite scenes is the demon is like limp and falls to the floor, and one of the guy like typically reaches out to like touch the witch's shoulder, and right before he does it, Ash grabs his hand and he's like, wait, it's a trap.
Wait, get an axe. It's a trick.
Get an axe. It is by far funniest catch because we all know what's coming, and I love the way he shot that because you have her pop her eyes open, so you already get the jump scare for the audiences, and you're just filled with dread because at the moment he touches her, she's gonna wheel around, and then Ash comes in and stops. It's so funny. It's like self-aware, and yet it's willing to go there, if that makes sense. And there's even things that are unexplainable, which I'll probably get into my nitpicks, but I'm okay with it. Like, just go along for the ride. If you don't get it, that's fine. We showed this to our roommates, and they're like, I don't understand. I'm like, I know, I don't either. I pretend to.
The crowd we showed it to, like, half the people were like, that was amazing. And then the other half were like, what the fudge did I watch? What is this?
Yeah, perfect divisive movie.
Well, you have a little bit of everything in it. I mean, you got like the Evil Dead, you got like skeletons and a demonic force, you have King Arthur and all of that, you have time travel, you have comedy, special effects, like all in one film. It's pretty awesome.
It's a big order.
Yeah, Cameron, your favorite subject, time travel.
Yeah, Cameron, where does this rank on time traveling movies for you, Cameron?
Definitely at the top of the list. Not.
Inexplicable time travel because the Book of the Dead. Oh, it's so good.
No, but it's okay. It's part of the prophecy, Ty. Just don't question it.
That's right. The Necronomicon. I love the old man, the wise man. Let's get into two of our least favorite things, or what doesn't seem to hold up.
Or nitpicking.
Okay, first of all, where did his awesome gray streaks go in his hair from the end of Evil Dead 2? Because those were awesome. That's nitpicking, of course. We're all going to probably mention this, but the shotgun. His shotgun appears out of nowhere after he climbs out of the pit to shoot King Arthur. Where'd it come from? I don't know. And last but not least, the pit monster. A lot of it's revolving the pit. Let's go there. The pit monster should have been crushed, okay? Should have been crushed by those walls that were coming out. But somehow climbs out. What?
Maybe there was two down there.
Yeah, twins.
Two identical.
That's it.
I almost feel like my nitpick, I'd have to put it into things I love. The acrobats in this movie are so good. There's flipping through the air. There's like wheeling and flying through the air. There's even like a jump off of a trampoline at one point, like in the S-Mart at the end. It's so so good.
Cameron, I need to know, when he fell in the pit for the first time, because this is your first time watching, what did you think was in that pit? Did it like scare you at all? Were you like, what am I gonna see?
I thought it was gonna be some giant monster. It ends up just being some creepy lady, and then he's like totally destroys the lady. The only time I jumped in the entire movie was in the pit when he was running to like try to climb up the wall or whatever, and then that like monster's like, and I was like, oh fuck. The rest of it I thought was really funny.
This movie has some like good jump scares, but also ahead of its time. He fights the witch and you're like, oh, it's over. The freaking thing comes out at him. It's a great scare.
I was reading he wasn't even going to put in that second monster, and then he saw the prosthetics that they made of that monster, and it's like, oh, we need to put this in that shot.
Yes. Oh, good call.
He's so incredible. That face, it's like
Hideous.
haunting in a way because I could see it right now. That's the beauty of practical effects. It's like tangible. It's gritty. It's there. It's like watching John Carpenter's The Thing. It's really there. The actors are reacting to it. It's visceral and it sticks with you. The scene where he goes to the Necronomicon, he finds the book. There's 3 of them, and he doesn't say the words before he even tries to reach for the first 2.
Oh, yeah.
He reaches for the first one, gets sucked in. It's like a wormhole. He gets back out. Hilarious prosthetics again. His face is like all distorted from being like pulled into a black hole.
What the frick was that, dude?
Shakes it. There's like 3 face transformations.
That was the most bullcrap correction ever.
Whoa.
As soon as he shakes it off the 3rd time, it just cuts to his face like normal. He's like, whoa. Nearly reaches for the correct one. He stops, reaches for the last one, and it turns into that freaking book that Harry Potter ripped off of, right? It's just like this evil book that chomps on you, attacking him. Book of Magical Creatures. Then he remembers to say the words. Cherry on top, he doesn't remember them. Funniest running joke where he's yelling at the wise man because he's like trying to instill in him the magic words that he needs to chant before he grabs the book. And he's like, yeah, I got your dang words. Like, I got it. And then he proceeds to Nirvana,
Necktie.
Definitely an N-word.
Klaatu, Nirvana. He just coughs. He pretends to say the word in a cough. Yeah.
The fact that he actually thought that was gonna work, I was like, are you kidding me?
It works because at the end, if he had grabbed the book without even saying, he didn't say the words right, so it awakens the dead. The dead will just infect a neighbor or a friend or a family member, and they just inexplicably have to kill. Like, it's too late for them. And we don't really ever see how the dead or the evil dead really infects someone. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing it, but I've watched the series. As far as I can tell, the dead, comes after you. In the TV show, his neighbor gets infected. We don't know why she got infected, but it's a great scene because he always didn't like her, and she does a jump scare to me.
I wonder if that's why they went about this one where he separated from himself, because I don't know.
That's my second nitpick is like he's in this windmill. This whole scene is just a big WTF. I love it because it's so funny. There's a lot of slapstick to be had, but it's like Bruce Campbell with a bunch of little Bruce Campbells that appear out of shards of a broken glass.
With no explanation.
I know it's the evil dead messing with him, but then one of his smaller selves dives into his throat. So now he's like gonna mess with his inside. So he drinks like a boiling kettle of water. He says hot chocolate, which is hilarious. We think killing him. He shrieks in pain, and then all of a sudden there's like this nervous twitch, and then this eyeball's growing out of his freaking shoulder. He ends up breaking off into 2 people, Evil Ash and Good Ash. I guess I don't need to explain it. I guess we just understand that the evil tried to get into him, just like it did with his hand, and then it just ended up creating a whole nother alter ego. I don't know.
Well, it's almost like that windmill is kind of a mini cabin from Evil Dead 2. It's like a representation.
Oh, interesting.
And maybe there was more to that location too. Leading up to it was great because, right, he's outrunning the evil dead, right? Like it's chasing after him. I love those scenes where it's splitting trees and it's just frantically like low to the ground, flying after him, and that sound of like almost like a black hole. What I imagine a black hole would sound like. It's so good. Like it's iconic. I think we were supposed to be talking about nitpicks, but there's just more things that I love about this film.
Let's set aside the fact of everything being so unrealistic and just go with the flow. The 2 biggest gripes I had was, 1, that is the strongest and most utilized belt I have ever seen in my life since Batman's utility belt. Sweet mother of mercy.
I forgot about that.
How did that shiz just wrap on? And then it supports his entire body weight and a monster grabbing onto him. I was like, what the freak?
And that intensity, though, yeah, it really carries weight. Like as he's slipping, and it's like right at the very end rung. Yeah, it's slipping through his fingers. It's like that Ace Ventura when nature calls when he's got the raccoon. It's like it's too stressful. This scene goes on for too long.
So that, and then also maybe I just don't have enough knowledge of the Evil Dead and the Army of Darkness. But how the heck does he stick that freaking chainsaw onto his hand, he like jumps up and it like perfectly hooks on like a magnet.
Like,
And I was like, what the fudge?
That brief freeze frame where he leaps into the air and it just click. It's almost like that 80s cheese. It's like a moment where you want to get out of your seat. The moment of desperation. Click. Just like, yeah.
Strange one.
Strange one. Throws him his chainsaw.
Just one last one that was kind of like, I don't know if it's necessarily a nitpick or a gripe. It was just like weird as shiz was the love story. I was like, the fudge? First off, I thought it was hilarious how they called her Wedge. It just reminded me of Court Jester. But just like the way he's like, give me some sugar, baby. And I was like, what the fudge? And they was like made out after she like had just like, she didn't slap him. She punched him. That was a full fist. She was like, poof. I was like, goodness. I guess that's attractive to some men when they get beaten. The heck?
I love when he's chained up and being brought into town and everyone's throwing food at him. Like, yeah, get lost out of here. And then she comes up to him and she like grabs his face.
Pulling
like,
his hair.
I love it. She throws a rock at his head too. He's like,
that's how he falls in the pit, yeah.
Yeah, he's like so disoriented. It's like a flashbang in Call of Duty.
That line that he delivers to her too is just like, first you want to kill me, now you want to kiss me. And he spits out a great pit blow.
so mean. That's one of my favorite lines. Dude, this is as quotable as like Nacho Libre or Napoleon Dynamite. This is the best. I mean, I love quoting this movie.
Completely.
It's so funny. Into the pit, those bloodthirsty sons of war. Everybody's a character in this movie.
Yes, everyone is dialing it up.
I don't want to die.
Good, bad. I'm the guy with the gun.
There's also a great slapstick humor where he uses the chainsaw and cuts off the ghoul's hand and it flies up and just slaps some guy in the face. The butcher guy with the handlebar mustache has the best reaction laugh ever. He's just like, just dies laughing. I'm not suggesting that the horror is cheapened in any way, but some reason like you just have like a really scary moment and it almost feels like it's undercut when it turns to like punching. When the witch appears in the pit, it's a great scene and all of a sudden like she proceeds to grab him and just like starts pummeling him in the face. She's just like fisticuffing. Like, okay, let's duke this out like, you know, two hockey.
Well, it's funny, the first person that fell in there, it was a giant explosion of blood everywhere.
So you think like he's gonna get spontaneously combusted or just grind it up and spat into powder, and then it's just like, I'm just gonna punch you in the face.
Try something different this
Exactly.
time.
I'm gonna play with my food a little
It's
bit.
got the continuity sometimes of The Room. Goodness.
Oh my goodness.
And how many bullets does he have? My man has unlimited ammo. What? It's like John Wick out here.
How about the end, Cameron? He's unloading on her.
He's on that standing cart.
He throws it up in the air for no reason.
And it hangs in the air for 17 seconds. And then he's like, catches it and is John Wicking her like 8 times. Goodness.
Wicking her.
I love this movie.
And he's so inaccurate with a shotgun. He's got a 12-gauge shotgun, double barreled, like probably like a little bit sawed off. And he can't hit a chick who's like 5 feet in front of him with 20 shots. My goodness. It's bad.
Yeah, it was almost one of my nitpicks, but every single one of the demons, it's never explained when they're finished, but you kind of get the sense that they are. Does he need to put 2 bullets in the head? Like, what does he need to do to officially kill something like this? Does it need to be burned? It got crushed. Puts the double barrel up into his nose, and he's like, swallow this, and just blasts him point blank.
That was in the second one.
Oh, maybe he doesn't. He's like teasing him and poking him in the face. Goody little two shoes.
My man has the instincts and the awareness of Mr. Miyagi. The amount of times he hit like a backwards shot or a backwards block is ridiculous.
Yeah, shoots over his shoulder, then does the...
Yeah, what the heck? I was like, is he like turned on or something? I was like, he's just like channeling his inner zen of like, I can do this.
One of the quotes, Ty, was, I'll swallow your soul. And then he goes, come get some at the end. And then in the second movie, he goes, I'll swallow your soul. And he shoves the gun into the guy's mouth and goes, swallow this. Might have been you, Ty, the first time I watched it with you, when Mom came down at the very end when she said, "I'll swallow your soul." She walked in right at that part and she ran upstairs, told Dad. Dad came running down and he's like, "I want this demonic crap out of my house." He was so mad.
That is so funny.
I've shown Mom scenes from this, so she thought it was funny, but I just didn't show her that one scene because it was like the only scene that's like super creepy.
I'll swallow your soul.
Yeah, and she's wearing a creepy mask.
The contortion is so great too. You shall die. It's like, oh gee, like I love the reveals in this movie when you have a character and the camera zooms past your characters and then the character turns around inexplicably. I love that. And the eyes are there, the wind's blowing, the lights are flying. I love that. I love the in-your-face horror.
When I watched Oz the Great and Powerful, I don't think I knew at the time it was Sam Raimi until the very end. When it zoomed up on the evil witch, I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks just like Sam Raimi.
Mm-hmm.
And
You know, it's that director style.
It's so funny that you mentioned Mom and Dad not being cool with this movie because I remember they went and saw Spider-Man 2 in the theater and they're like, oh, everyone should see it. Then they're like, oh, but you guys aren't old enough to see it. We're like, what? They're like, there was this terrifying scene where Doc Ock is like terrorizing all the doctors. And I'm like, that is like Sam Raimi in his element. He's like, this is my little horror scene in a superhero film. It's literally Doc Ock tearing apart all these doctors. And of course, you actually had a doctor with like an actual buzzsaw that kind of reminiscent of Ash and his chainsaw, right? Like, I just love that. And that was the scene that like turned Mom and Dad off to Spider-Man. They're like, you boys are never watching this movie. It's so violent.
Well, and Bruce Campbell is in all of the Spider-Man.
yes.
Yeah, the wrestler announcer, he's the guy at the theater that won't let him in. And then the last one, he's the waiter or the hostess at the restaurant that he tries to propose to.
I love that.
It's so great. I love that he has them in each of his films. I just love talking about this movie because it's like, they're not even nitpicks. It's just things that we actually like.
Well, it plays to its comedy and its advantage because even its practical effects, like you could argue that they're not, maybe it doesn't look as real, perhaps.
Well, I think it's all that callbacks to that earlier era animations, homages, paying homage to.
I think it's very visually appealing because I absolutely love that stuff. Because I just know, because I've done little stop motion videos and oh my gosh, it takes so much time.
Just if you think of Parks and Rec when Chris Traeger goes over to Adam Scott's place.
That is the greatest scene ever.
Rob Lowe goes to Adam Scott's place, and then he has like this film. He's like, I've been working on this for like 3 months or something. And he goes like starts this claymation film where his character like gets up out of bed and then like takes a step forward and it's over. It's like it literally runs for 3 seconds and he goes, oh no, this took me like 3 months to make.
I've done nothing with my life.
Yes, but the work that went into this, because you see the intricacies of like each of the characters. Each of the characters are so different too. The big, long, open jowls with the fangs, the eyes that are glossed over. Even the mud monster, or I don't know what to call him, the pit monster. He just looks like he's been sitting down there for months, right? He's just like got all these warts. It's so good. The witch doing the backflips to him and then launching herself at it. I love that.
How about when she's trying to stab Ash and they like speed up time and it's just like that quick like jabbing?
Yes.
I love stuff like that. Oh my gosh. Or when he shoots the bow and arrow at the guy running away and it's the camera's attached to the arrow and it's following the guy. He's like,
We're going to get into the next segment. Quotes. And we've already quoted a lot of this movie, but of course, you know, this is my boomstick when he yells it at the people and they all cower and flinch when he yells it. It's so great.
oh, classic.
12
Yes.
gauge double-barreled Remington. S-Smart's top of the line. You can find this in the sporting goods department. That's right. This sweet baby was made by the Grand Rapids, Michigan. Retails for about $109.95. It's got walnut stock, cobalt blue steel, and a hair trigger. That's right. Shop smart. Shop S-Smart. You got that? Just yells at everyone. Love the quotes from this movie.
Primitive primates.
If one of you touches me again.
He just throws in these amazing phrases like he's like, it came back big time. Every time they do something like that, I just absolutely love. Or he throws in all these like amazing quotes because he's sucked back in time when he sees the wizard guy and he's like, whoa, right there, spinach chin. Like,
Which is from Three Stooges, by the way.
is it really?
Yep.
Oh,
Call back to Three Stooges.
that's amazing. Makes me love it even more.
There's a great scene at the very end where the demon-possessed lady shows up and he's just like, lady, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store. She's like, who the hell are you? The name's Ash. Cocks the rifle, housewares.
I love when she's like, you found me beautiful once, honey.
You got real ugly.
Her line was so great when she has that close-up and she's like, I may be bad, but I feel good. I don't know, that was so funny. It's not just Ash with the one lines.
That was just pillow talk, baby.
I thought the skeletons had a lot of fun lines, and this is a line that I use. Like, I probably use it every single day of my life, but it's the skeletons after they realize that everything's going bad. They're like, let's get the hell out of here.
That scene where they cut back and forth is my favorite scene. I quote it to my wife all the time. It's just like, what are we gonna do? I'm afraid. I don't want to die. That frantic panic, like of like trying to devise a plan while you have this guy nagging at you, like I'm just crying. I don't want to die. One of my favorites is maybe, just maybe, my boys can protect the book. Yeah, and maybe I'm a Chinese jet pilot.
I wrote that one down.
So great. I love that.
I just love all the little details too. It's just like the king, like he's got arrows in his back and he's like, protect the book. Like, there's so many good parts of this movie. Just like when they're all light their arrows and he's like, steady, steady. And I just love this movie.
I love how Bruce Campbell is so kind of arrogant. There's one line I remember him saying, he says, don't touch that, please. Your primitive intellect wouldn't understand alloys and compositions and things with molecular structure.
And his eyes, the way he looked, he was like, you could tell he like doesn't know that.
Yeah, like he doesn't really know what he's saying, but he's kind of like
Exactly.
bull crapping it.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. He's like running away right after he fails to say the words. He falls down and all these skeleton hands come up and like grab him to the ground. And that's kind of like a scary, intense moment. And then it quickly divulges into them just like sticking their fingers in his mouth, like grabbing his nose.
It's literally the Three Stooges, dude. That's such an homage.
Well,
to
they
the Three
poke him in the
Stooges.
eyes, yeah.
Yeah, he tries to put up his hands to block it.
They do the eye poke and they have the sound effects. Yeah. He puts up his hands and they poke him on either side.
Dunk, dunk.
And it makes that like ridiculous like hair pulling sound.
Oh, you.
There's so many quotes. That's right. Go ahead and run home and cry to mama.
There's just a couple other little details I just wanted to shout out to, too. I love that they bring back the same creature that says, I'm going to swallow your soul down in the basement in the Evil Dead 2. And he comes back as like a couple different soldiers. He's the one that says, I don't want to die. They bring back that guy and a bunch of them. He comes back again in the TV series. I also love the music in this movie. It's so good.
He's yelling at his deadeye, it's Evil Ash, and he's like, Salifa, and his jaw keeps falling out. Just like, Salifa.
Salifa.
Then he gets to Salifars. He can't yell it because his jaw keeps dislocating.
Those two skeletons you were talking about, one of them, when they're riding the horse, like it's an actual puppet on a horse, and so when it's riding, it looks like it's gonna fall off. It's amazing.
When Evil Ash, his reaction when they start to lose the battle, he's just like, oh. So good. Reaction shots to the battle going on from a distance is so great.
Spoil your good looks. I love Evil Ash.
He's a great character.
So good.
One last good comedic moment was when Ash trains them to do like this, I don't know what to call it except like the fight scene from Mulan. They do like this impressive spear twirling thing. They strike the first row of such a great moment where you're like, oh, they might just get out of this one. There's so many, obviously. We could go the whole night quoting them.
Go through each individual scene. You just need to see this movie.
Well, how can you not love the bumbling hero?
I guess you understand he's a flawed character, but what's so fun about it is he's the guy who wants to sit back and enjoy a drink, doesn't want all this, and all this is thrust upon him, and everything's taken away from him, so in the end he has nothing to lose, but he just wants to go back to just chilling on a beach somewhere in a Hawaii t-shirt, flip-flops, drinking in a recliner. That's all he wants.
He just wanted a weekend at a cabin with his girlfriend. That's all he wanted.
Yes.
And he got 3 movies, a remake, and TV series.
And hopefully a video game soon.
Oh, yes.
Well, they have an old original video game. I haven't played it, but...
They have, I think, 2 original, but this is hopefully a new one coming out.
Oh, I hope so. He makes appearances sometimes in...
Supposed to be a new Mortal Kombat 11 character eventually.
Oh my gosh, that is absolutely correct. That's where he belongs, that's for sure.
Oh, and he's in Dead by Daylight.
And of course, we would be remiss if I didn't mention Groovy. The best line with all the close-ups where he makeshifts himself like a robotic armored hand.
The montages.
The only good part of the new remake was him showing up and saying Groovy. Talk about making a good montage.
Before he fails to say it, he's just like, Klata, Varada, Nectar, Nickel, Noodle. He goes, it's an N-word. It's definitely an N-word. I don't know, I think that's so funny. And then he coughs, right?
And did you guys know that Klatu Barata Niktu, that's originally from the movie the day the Earth stood still.
Oh, really?
That's one of the things he had to say to the robot to stop him from destroying the Earth.
That's awesome.
Little shout out to his other films. I could see him like intentionally choosing something like that. That whole movie was premised on the whole world coming to an end, right? Due to some alien force. So I could see that being like, this is a very important phrase that hinges the safety of the world as we know it.
I think it might have been, some kind of a movie he watched as a child that really inspired him to make the films that he made.
I got it. I know your words, all right? Why is that so good?
I've sometimes, sounds horrible, but tricked people into believing it's PG-13 because there's only one F word.
Totally.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like, get the F out of my face. There's like the people, he's like, yeah, great. It's just got a bunch of stuff that would be in like Monty Python or any other PG-13s.
Well, truthfully, Sam Raimi did want a PG-13 rating for this film.
I didn't even know this was R. This is a very tame R.
Sam Raimi tried to go for the PG-13 rating, but he ended up not getting it.
How?
There is actually a director's cut of this film that has a lot more, it's not nudity, but like it has like a scene with...
Side boob.
Right.
But that gets away in PG-13s though, still.
Totally.
I don't know. So yeah, it is weird that it didn't get by.
That's rigged.
Cameron.
It was totally a PG-13 movie.
When you compare this side by side, Karen, if you end up watching the original too, like especially the sequel, the second one has so much like, it's almost like that movie Brain Dead that you made me watch, Jordan.
Oh, I love that movie.
Oh, I love Brain Dead.
It's like that level of like gore and just constant liquids. This movie is very different, right? You had even an army of skeletons, right? It wasn't even like blood and gore everywhere. It was like just comical.
Yeah, like that scene where King Henry rides up and he smashes the skeleton and just dust comes flying out of it. I love that.
Movies that this is like, I mean, anything like Sam Raimi's done, we mentioned the influences that he's had, right? Three Stooges, like it's that slapstick humor. It has like WTF moments just like Big Trouble in Little China from John Carpenter.
Yes.
There's a lot of just out of this world elements, and yet if you can just buy into the narrative, like you're just along for a ride, just enjoy the movie. Don't think about it too hard.
I was going to say, this reminds me a lot of The Willow.
Nice.
Even the brownies remind me of the little characters himself running around.
Knights, the castle.
It has lots of practical effects.
For some reason, I think of The Burbs when I see this movie with Tom Hanks, the Suburbia movie.
Burbs, Goonies.
Just like a comedy horror. It's very effective, like good comedy and good horror. Every once in a while, I think you'll try to add a few funny jokes into a horror movie, or you have a moment to breathe. But like this is a comedy and it's a horror film. That's like a hard thing to do. Scare people 1 minute and then like try to make them laugh the next. Like genuinely laugh.
It kind of reminded me of Happy Death Day 1 a little.
The first one, and not the second one.
We're not going to get into it. You guys are both nerds, gosh.
If you're talking about similar movies and everything, you got to bring up, his previous film that he just did was Darkman. And that's like, a superhero type film, Liam Neeson. You definitely should check that out because it gives him his kind of forte into like feature films. It definitely has his style. And of course, like a year or so afterwards, he did Xena.
Princess Warrior, right? Yeah.
We must remember that. Bruce Campbell's in that. And all those like similar shots, it really is reminiscent of Army of Darkness to me. Because I actually thought Xena came before Army of Darkness, but it was actually the other way around. So it's funny how much Army of Darkness influenced Xena and how he did for like television.
Oh, I didn't know he directed any of that because I just bought it. I want to watch it now. I'm excited.
Oh my goodness, it's so good.
Say hello to the 21st century.
I love how those two actors keep showing up in each other's movies. Like then in Ash versus the...
Evil Dead.
She shows up in that.
We can take these deadites. We can take them with science. I just want to close with, I love everything about this film. Do we recommend it? Hard yes. Please, everyone, see this film.
1,000,000%.
100%. This movie is so great. Cameron, how about you, Cameron? We got to convince you.
Yeah. Would you recommend this movie, Cameron? I'm very curious.
If I knew the person, yes.
If you do, you just go up to strangers. Hey, watch this film. I don't know you, but you definitely need to see this film.
Yeah, I don't know if I would recommend to strangers, but that's definitely a good recommendation.
Honestly, just last night watching this movie over the presidential debates, time well spent. Like I'm watching two old doddering fools lying back and forth. This was a much better use of time.
Completely.
Watch Army of Darkness, man.
It is interesting going back to what Chris said at the beginning about it being family friendly. I tried watching Evil Dead 2 with Grant. He's like, this is interesting. And then I'm like, all right, let's try Army of Darkness. So we stopped that and we started Army of Darkness, and Grant just loved Army of Darkness. So it definitely has a wider range for a bigger audience.
Completely.
More accessible.
Broader audience.
The other two are more of a cult classic. It's kind of got its own little following.
Deeper meaning. What is the message this movie's trying to convey?
Obviously, if you don't pay attention and learn the proper phrasing, you're going to breathe forth the Evil Dead.
Learn the dang words. Yeah.
Most of all, if you just execute your actions poorly, the result will be just that. And I think that's what it's kind of really trying to convey.
You're always taking the easy road, and he ends up screwing himself and making it harder for him and everyone everyone else around him.
Even at the end, the struggle continues because he didn't say the words right, coming back. And so she comes back at the S-Smart, but the hero's going to persevere no matter what. So that's the kind of fun story that it has.
I just love movies like this because it makes me want to be a filmmaker. It just gives me hope that I'm like, oh my gosh, films can be like this. Because, sometimes you spend hours watching reality TV and you're like, I need a shower, I feel gross. And then after you watch something like this,
Troy's like, I've been made whole.
This movie truly transports you to a different time, It's
yes, exactly.
Literally. No, yeah, the deeper meaning is that nothing makes sense. That's the deeper meaning.
We're all just traveling through the world, working at our own private S-Marts.
Home goods.
I forgot to wear an Ash shirt that just says, "This is my boomstick." And then I used to have a little action figure in high school. And actually, it was your brother, Chris, that saw it. And that's when you know who the cool people are, because they're like, you'll be wearing a shirt or something, like, oh, that's a cool shirt. And you're like, yeah, that's right. Because you'll know who's a fan of it. And your brother saw the little action figure and he was like, you know about Army of Darkness?
Dang right.
I was like, oh, I love this kid already.
Oh, yeah.
Fast friends.
I was actually looking for my Evil Dead t-shirt that you got. Well, one of you guys got me for Christmas. I think it was you, Jordan.
Oh, that's right. I forgot I gave that to you. I forgot to wear mine too.
Cameron and I don't own any memorabilia from the Evil Dead. We still can love the movie.
Yeah, apparently I'm not on the level of nerdness that you guys are for this film.
I got all the action figures. I got like every Evil Dead action figure they have out right now.
Yeah.
That's why we have you on.
I found an old video store and people just donated different things to it. And so I actually left my action figure there. I felt like it was a perfect place to put it, but I now want to buy a new one because I'm a little upset I got rid of it.
Well, I do dioramas and stuff. So right now I have a giant Star Wars mini action figure diorama going.
That's sick.
You'll have to give us the tour after the pod.
Oh yeah, I'll take some photos and send it to you.
That's awesome. We are coming up on an hour, so we're going to respect your time, Chris. Are you okay to go over?
I'm cool.
We always tease people. If it's a positive experience, they'll usually stay on. We've had guests that drop as soon as we give them an inch.
Oh yeah. Now I'm chilling. The wife is playing Animal Crossing or something, so.
It may help if we gave a plot synopsis. A sardonic hardware store clerk is accidentally transported to 1300 AD, where he must retrieve the Necronomicon and battle an army of the dead so he can return home. That was the movie we just discussed. You guys just thought I'd give that caveat there.
We go around and talk about what we've watched lately and what we're looking forward to. And we'll start with Chris.
One movie I want to really bring up, which is really fun. It's called Death Becomes Her. It's made in the 80s. Bruce Willis, Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn.
Oh, I love Bruce Willis.
It's a film about two rivals trying to outdo each other, even after death. We're talking about like bumbling heroes. Ash, Bruce Campbell versus Evil Dead, and even like Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China. These heroes that we can't help but love because they make mistakes just like the audience. We make mistakes in real life, so we can connect with them. This movie, Death Becomes Her, I think is a hilarious 80s film that is horror comedy in the same kind of vein as Army of Darkness. And I think it's Bruce Willis's one of his best performances because he's just such a bumbling fool in it. But of course, Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn are incredible.
Isn't it Robert Zemeckis who made it?
Exactly, yeah.
It came out the same year that Army of Darkness did.
Really fun film. That's something I've watched lately that I just absolutely love and want to share with you guys.
Anything you're looking forward to?
Yeah, Candyman.
Oh, yes.
And also in the vein of Sam Raimi, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I think that's really going to be fun.
Is he going to direct that?
That's what they're saying so far.
Oh, please.
And so it'll be Marvel's first turn in the MCU of going to like horror. It's going to be really, really fun because it's going to follow like the events of WandaVision and everything with Scarlet Witch.
I don't think there's anyone better equipped to do it than Sam Raimi. I mean, like you said, the Spider-Man's, the horror.
He's going to be perfect for it. So I'm really, really excited for his common camera angles and his voice that he puts into every single one of his films.
Especially with Doctor Strange, it's such a perfect out of all of the Marvel characters to be able to use his his style of filming as well.
I didn't know that. You made my day.
That's great news.
I've been watching just recently some New Girl. Me and Grant are kind of getting into that where we want to watch that together. Grant's loving it. It's pretty funny. Sometimes a little too much sexual and sometimes awkward, but overall it's pretty funny. I really like the douche jar just makes me crack up and just like all the dumb things that they say.
Schmitty.
He's so funny. Yesterday I watched How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. A pretty
Yes.
good overall film.
I love that film.
I haven't seen young Matthew McConaughey in a while, so it's kind of weird seeing him like in like pristine shape and not like say 50 years old in like Interstellar and stuff like that.
I used to study that film on how it's like the breakdown of it for a romantic comedy. It really has all the beats.
Yeah, it's really good for a romantic comedy. I feel like it's like the perfect movie for like any girl. It like perfectly like personifies like a lot of like women or whatever, and they can just relate a lot to it.
Oh yeah, but guys can watch it too.
What I like about it too is that fact that they actually use the plot device. It is literally the plot where the girl is trying to get rid of the guy and the guy is trying to keep the girl, which is so funny because every romantic comedy has that exact premise of every single quintessential chick flick movie. That the formula, rom-com, characters that couldn't be any less likely to end up together, right? They end up together because they go through this journey.
But I think they did a really good job giving like the male perspective and the female perspective. They really good balance to it.
My favorite is his friends. They just go with whatever she says. I love it. It's so funny.
You let it die.
Who's the 70-year-old on the podcast with us?
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna kill you.
Just kidding, Cameron.
You need to put one of those filters on.
We'll send you some pea soup or something.
Split pea.
Some okra. Chum and potato soup.
Holy fudge, I'm looking forward to watching season 2 of The Boys.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Boys.
So good.
Boys.
Guys, there's so many crazy things gonna happen in this. I'm so excited.
Oh, I know.
The honest trailer about The Boys. Homelander, yeah, when he's like, save Martha? He like lasers him or whatever. And it's kind of true.
That won't save you now.
Yeah, so don't spoil anything because I haven't seen any of season 2, so.
So excited for you.
You haven't seen any of season 2, Cameron? Are you waiting till it all comes out and binge watch it, or what are you doing? Have you not seen any of it?
I don't know, dude. I hate like waiting because I used to do that all the time for Arrow and Flash. You know me, I can literally binge watch like a show in like a week.
I'm the same way, but I will say to their credit, I actually enjoy the week because it gives me a week to think about it and process it.
You definitely can appreciate it on another level.
I can't identify Stranger Things season 2 to season 3. I literally cannot. I mean, I know one involves the mall and one involves the small dogs, but it's like everything is just a blur, but that's just me.
A lot of people have been upset that The Boys wasn't released all at once on Amazon, but I know that it was a creative choice by the writers to release it in an episodic format because they wanted to release that information, kind of build anticipation for the next episode. I would recommend watching it not in a binge format only because that's how the creators are saying, like, we wanted you to watch it like this for a reason. I love binging everything because you truly understand the jokes. I mean, even watching Seinfeld on binge, you can understand jokes from 6 episodes ago that they use, and you're like, wait a minute, they just used the same joke. Binging has its complete benefits, but sometimes I feel that having that kind of anticipation really adds to the experience.
Definitely makes the cliffhangers that much more like monumental when you're like, oh frick, now I have to wait a week to find out like what happened.
Exactly.
That's how it was with Game of Thrones.
It's kind of fun because you stew about
You
it.
got to think about it. You start feeling things about it.
You start to speculate, like, where do you think it's going to go? That's my favorite part. And again, it's not like, oh, I'm so clever because I figured it out. To me, it's just like, it gives me more time to be more empathetic or involved in the show, too. My creativity is gone. When you binge it, you don't even have to speculate what happens because you start the next episode and you're like, this is what happens. It's kind of nice sometimes to have a moment of respite and think. I've told Jordan a few times where I'm like, oh, this is where I'm predicting it goes based on what I saw in the trailer or the teaser. I try to anticipate based on the cliffhanger last episode or what was referenced earlier in the episode or earlier in the season, try to figure out where it's going to head.
Sometimes if you binge it, like I asked Grant, I'm like, hey, remember that scene in Stranger Things? And he binge watched season 2 and 3 all right away. He's like, I don't remember anything you're talking about.
I don't remember anything.
He's like a little dazed. He's like, oh, I don't feel so good.
But when you have that time to think about it, you really think about the interactions and everything.
Amen. Yeah, Cameron, so the way you've been watching films is wrong.
Yeah,
so
clearly.
Stupid.
No, you're not. I can't say that.
At least, Cameron, you're not that guy that's watching Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey times 3 speed.
If you guys haven't been watching Star Trek The Next Generation, just watch it. Watch it in your downtime. Watch it while you're doing something. It's one of the greatest shows ever.
Were you an original Trek fan?
No, okay, so my grandfather really loved Star Trek. I was a Star Wars kid. Love Star Wars. But growing up now, like, I've definitely felt, like, listening to the stories I have, mainly about, like, Data and stuff, it touches on humanity, late 80s, early 90s. Binge watch that one, because you pull so much from each episode with the characters, just as far as, like, life and being a good person. There's a moral in every episode.
So kind of like Game of Thrones.
So I definitely recommend that.
Wesley, we had on the podcast that reviewed Blade Runner. He swears by Star Trek, so I'll have to check that out. I keep hearing that.
All the other ones are great, but Next Generation is absolutely solid.
I just watched The Wailing, which is an unbelievably good Korean film.
So good.
Nice.
When you first watch it, there's so many moments where I'm like, what is going on? This movie is so weird. And it had me laughing hysterically so many times. Like when they're telling each other scary stories and all of a sudden the power goes out and then there's somebody standing outside their door and they're like screaming so loud. And then that ending, oh my gosh, I cannot stop thinking about that ending. I had to watch a bunch of YouTube people explain to me like what it meant because the film is so crazy and confusing.
That's the Korean one with like the virus, right? Like
I don't know if I'd call it a virus.
that small town. Maybe that's part of the mystery. You don't have to spoil it.
It's a possession film.
That's the one. I'm sorry. I said virus.
Similar.
Like it was almost like a virus because it kept spreading throughout the town and each person that got possessed would run around killing people.
Like it follows, or 28 days later, or something like
Speaking of Korean movies, have you guys ever seen I Saw the Devil?
Yes.
I
Yes.
love that movie. I just rewatched that recently.
That maneuver he pulls in the car at the end.
Oh my goodness.
That 360 shot.
So awesome.
I love that there's 3 killers, like all in the same car. It's fantastic.
He's like, I'm such a lucky guy. And he's like, no,
No.
you are very unlucky. And you start stabbing him in the throat.
Great film.
I love Ty's reaction too when I recommended it to him. And he's like, it's so unfiltered.
It was just like any minute I was like, it's gonna like cut away. It's like, no, literally, this is what's gonna happen.
Well, it's like, I don't know if you guys have seen Irreversible. It's intense. There's a graphic scene where they like smash someone's head in. It's the
jeez.
same guy who did Enter the Void, if you haven't seen that. Same kind of like awkward feeling.
Sounds like my kind of film.
Enter the Void really changed my life. It made me scared in life.
It's like that movie, Jordan. Do you watch The Audition? I remember you telling me about that one, right, Jordan?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's...
That was a messed up one too, but I was just like, oh.
You watched that?
No, I didn't watch it, but I know all about it, and I listened to a episode about that, and I was like, okay, yeah, no thanks. but I get that it exists, and it's a movie out there for all those psychos out there.
Well, we might do Takashi Miike's film, Happiness of Katakuri's.
Oh my gosh, that movie's so weird.
Oh, wait, what am I looking forward to? You always cut me off before I finish.
I don't care
I'm going to go see a movie called Possessor, and it's a film by...
Cronenberg's son.
So the guy who did The Fly, David Cronenberg, he has a son who makes movies now, and his movies are just as gross and disgusting.
It looks so good.
tickled my twine, as they say. You've tickled my interest. I'm curious to see what this is about now. I had to find the creepiest way to say that. You piqued my interest.
But I'm also excited to see what Chris is excited to see, The Candyman. I just watched the original. I don't know how I haven't seen the original, but that was amazing.
The original's so good. I mean, and there's a lot of other... They have, like 3 or 4 other ones, but
Yeah.
the original is just so good.
Which one's the Candyman again?
About a guy who basically got killed. You say his name 3 times into the mirror and he comes back and kills you.
I think it's something about he fell in love with a white girl.
Exactly.
They cut off his hand. They put a hook in his hand.
And covered him in bees.
Yeah, they filled his grave with bees.
But that's not what you did last summer, right?
No, that's also a hook.
Oh, have you guys watched Urban Legend?
I haven't seen it, but is the guy with the hook hand, right?
It's not great. It's like a dollar store version of Scream. It's definitely funny. It's fun to watch. It's campy. Tara Reid's in it. That's all I gotta say.
So I've been watching The Boys. I love Boys. Oh, I just finished The Outsider, Stephen King's adaptation.
Nice.
So good.
Mendelsohn was incredible with...
He is one of my new and upcoming favorite actors right now. I think that he is going to go places, or he just continues to...
Is he killing them softly? Is that who you're talking about? Mississippi Grind?
Yep. Star Wars, Rogue One. He's the evil general.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah. Even though I haven't seen that, but I heard he was in it. And I was like, maybe I do want to go see it, you know?
He was in Ready Player One, too. That was good.
He and Jason Bateman.
Incredible.
I feel bad because it's not like I wish they cut things out. It's actually pretty close to the book. They do meander a few times or change a few things here or there. But I almost feel like they either could have maybe made it to 8 episodes. The more they throw in from the book, it's great. But as a medium, Terry Maitland, even though he's not in it very much, not to spoil too much of it, but he steals the show for the first 2 episodes. And you're just like, I want more of that, or at least to center on that. And you kind of almost drift away from it a little bit. But then at the end, it's like it kind of comes back. It ends strong and it begins strong. And maybe in the middle, it sags a little bit.
I think it was really nice for having, some of those other characters to really shine in some of the later episodes.
Yes, I love Yoon's Sablo's character. He's the other detective.
I forgot the girl's name, the detective, Holly, but she is fantastic. Like, I want to see her in so many... And she's a singer, too.
Really cool resume. And I love Stephen King books, so it's always fun to still be like an adult reading a book and then seeing a film adaptation of it. And when it's done right, oh, it's so gratifying. It was a great book series adopted to film.
You need to watch 1126 or whatever it's called.
Or have you watched Castle Rock?
So I haven't seen Castle Rock and I haven't seen 1126.
What? Castle Rock Season 2 is fantastic. Lizzie Kaplan. So good. She plays the girl from Misery.
Oh, Kathy Bates?
Kathy Bates' character, younger in life. It's amazing. amazing.
And then, yeah, Jordan, you just mentioned it. The ones I'm looking forward to is seeing 11/22/63, which is the JFK assassination starring James Franco that was produced with J.J. Abrams.
I loved that one. That was a fun one.
Because that was a book I also read. So I was watching an episode a night.
You get to think on it, you know? You get to talk about it.
Yes, yeah, and I like stew about it. I was so gripped by episode 1 and 2. Jason Bateman as a director is so great. All of his work he's done on Ozark.
Visceral.
The shot they did where they are taking Terry Maitland into the prison is so well executed and staged. I watched it like 3 or 4 times, just that scene. I just kept rewinding it.
Yeah, he reminds me of David Fincher a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so crazy. I mean, this is the guy, you know, from Arrested Development. He's got a funny bone, but he is like the everyday man. But who knew that he could pull this, like, just like underneath the surface, like this dark...
Well, people from comedy have made the best stuff. I mean, look at Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen is doing The Boys. I mean, he did Preacher. He's doing all these amazing shows.
I feel like a lot of comedians, they just have this dark side of them. They're like, no one ever lets that part shine. But when they do, it's like, oh my gosh. I do want to go see Unhinged. Jordan's told me he's seen it 3 times now. I got to go see it with Russell Crowe.
Well, I mean, don't build it up too much. It's just a good popcorn flick.
It's not like I go see a Russell Crowe movie these days thinking, oh, okay, blow my mind. I'm not seeing a Charlie Kaufman film.
And right now, honestly, movies are about being transported away. And right now, everyone needs that just so we can get through the days. If Unhinged is it, Unhinged is it, you know? I want to see Tenet so darn bad.
Don't listen to our podcast, Chris, until you've definitely seen the movie, because we spoiled the heck out of it, but it is such a good movie.
Oh, yes.
I love Christopher Nolan, and so I'm excited to check out. Of course, the whole time inversion thing is interesting to me, so I'm excited to check it out.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Chris, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the social medias and whatnot, what you got working on, what things, you know, where we can find you?
I'm at CPT Cloudshine on Instagram. That's mainly where I'm at. Guys, this has been really fun. It's so fun to hang out with my brothers.
We've been fighting for this. We need to get you as many times as we can before you no longer want to talk to us and you just make it big. And you just turn your back on all your family.
Hey, you let me know, and I'm available. I honestly, right now, during this whole quarantine, my wife and I have just been watching TV shows, movies, and playing video games, doing all the fun stuff. So if you guys need a movie, let me know.
Will do, man. Hey, Chris, thanks so much for being on. Jordan, tell people where they can write their emails and what they need to do.
futuremovies@gmail.com.
Write us an email if you have any questions, concerns, jokes, or any criticisms, because we'll file them away in the special filing cabinet called the Wastebasket. Leave us a 5-star review and take a picture, screenshot of our Futro Hidden Movie Gems, and post it on your Instagram. Get people to listen to it. We want all the cool people.
Oh, boy.
But don't share us to your lame friends and family. Only share it with a cool group of friends, all right? That's where we want to be.
The cool kids.
Hey, everyone, this is Futro Hidden Movie Gems. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.
Rest that voice, buddy.
All right. Bye. I love you.